name again is Pam Porter, and I am here co-hosting with Julie Alexander from Be-Informed. And today we have with us State Senator John Connor. And what I want him to do is let him introduce himself, and then we will interview him based off of some questions that we have that's pertinent to, I believe, his running for circuit judge.
Thank you very much, Pam. I appreciate it. Once again, my name is John Connor. I'm currently the state senator for the 43rd district here in Illinois. I was previously state representative for the 85th district, and now I'm running for circuit court judge here in Will County. So Will County is the 12th circuit here in Illinois, and there are 16 circuit judges, and then the other judges are called associate judges. The circuit judges are elected, the associate judges are appointed. So I am running to be one of the elected judges here in Will County.
Great, thank you so much. Now, some people may say that you're running because your dad was a judge.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So can you share with the community, basically give us a little bit of your history, some aspects of your history as far as, political, and so we'll have a better sense of who you are and what you represent.
So I grew up here in Joliet. I grew up basically right across the bridge from the museum on Broadway Street here in Joliet. My mom ran a nursing home. My father was a judge. When I was first born, he was mayor of Joliet for a time frame as well. So I grew up in a family that was very involved in what was going on in Joliet, from a political perspective. To some degree, I did burn out a little bit because I was walking precincts when I was 8 years old, walking with my dad and with the family. And so sometimes when you grow up in a political family, there's a time frame where you want to do something different. So I went to law school, and then I practiced on an island out in the Pacific for about a year and a half. But my younger brother, Matt, he got malignant melanoma, which is a very deadly form of skin cancer. And so I ended up coming back just before he passed, and then I joined the state's attorney's office not long after that, and I was a career prosecutor for 20 years. The only unit that I wasn't in within the state's attorney's office was the drug unit. So I did just about everything else, whether it was juvenile, I even did time in the civil division, and then as a felony courtroom assistant, then a supervisor, and then finally as the major crimes chief and the computer crimes unit chief before I left. So what happened was that Emily McCasey was my state representative for the 85th district, and her husband got a job out in the DC area, so she ended up resigning from her post, and then I was appointed. There were only 3 of us that applied to take that seat, and I was the one that was selected. So I was briefly in for an appointed period, and then I ran and was elected as the state representative. I served with Senator Pat McGuire. We shared an office when Senator McGuire announced that he was not going to run again. I determined that the only way I knew if I was going to get along with the next state senator, it was me. So I made the decision that I would run to take the seat after Pat decided that he wasn't going to run. So it was kind of it was a pretty fast arc, my decision to get into politics. But basically, I had done everything at the state's attorney's office, really, except for, being the state's attorney. Just about every aspect of that office I had done something with. I had improved it, put new systems in place, etc. So I didn't see that there was really anything more that I could accomplish at that point when I decided to get into the legislature.
What impact do you think that you would have as a circuit clerk judge in Will County?
A judge has an incredible amount of power, and on a day-to-day basis, they have the power to make someone have an absolutely miserable day, whether or not there's penalties or consequences that occur, but just by how they treat people in the courtroom. And I think we're constantly improving, and that is great. And I think that the 20 years of experience that I have had watching judges and seeing what works, what maybe doesn't work, what gets people in and out of the courtroom quickly, because the bottom line is none of us want to be, I do I would as a judge, but most people don't want to go to the courthouse. They don't want to spend time in the courthouse. It represents some type of failure, whether they were driving too fast, they're driving drunk, they're going through a divorce, something that is not a pleasant experience for them. So they want to go into court, they want a fair shake, and they want to be treated with respect. You know, and so I was raised that you treat people with respect until they give you a reason to treat them differently. And you know, I think that makes a big difference, and that would be kind of the attitude that I would bring to the bench as a circuit court judge. And also, my father had a great saying, which was, contentment is not a virtue. So if we're not striving to make things better all the time, we really shouldn't be in the position, we shouldn't be in a position just to say we have a position.
Absolutely.
You know, I've been a state representative, I've been a state senator. You know, I'm not doing this so that people can tell me, you know, how pretty I am or that I'm important. I want to be a judge to make change, you know, in the community, to make Will County and Joliet, you know, a better place to live for my children, for, you know, their children, for everyone's children. So, and I think, you know, what I've come to learn is that, you know, the bench is a fantastic place to do that from. And if you have judges that are trying to make the community a better place, the bench is a fantastic place to do that.
One thing, first of all, what would be a change that you would want to see take place? And then, one of the biggest things that people have been, you know, there's been all these multiple conversations around mental health. And I want to know, what would you propose to do? You know, any committees within the community when it comes to mental health? You know, with people, you know, going to jail, with people you have prisons. Well, you know, what is your take on mental health? And then, you know, what do you propose that people do? Would you connect people? How do you know, I think it's the judges that help connect the dots, you know, when it comes to mental health. So what would be your take on that?
Well, so we have a mental health court. That was an initiative that took place several years ago. It has been running. I actually filed a bill last year to make some changes to allow misdemeanor courtrooms to handle mental health situations slightly differently than they're being held now. That bill did not end up passing, but there's discussions, you know, still ongoing with what are called the problem-solving courts in order to work on that. But there is no doubt that, you know, I had to read a book in high school, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. It's a wonderful book as a piece of art. You know, it's a wonderful book to read. One of the bad effects of that book is that its popularity caused there to be this very negative view towards institutionalization, you know, during that time frame. So there was a move, hey, let's save a bunch of money. We don't need all these mental health facilities. We don't need all these institutions, you know, because they look bad in this book, and, you know, they're places where people are confined, and, you know, and so to a large degree, we helped our budgets by getting rid of these. Well, now we're seeing the unintended consequences of that. And instead of having people getting treatment in facilities, they're locked up in the jail, where they really can't get treatment that's going to significantly help them. As you know, Tom Dart, who's the sheriff up in Cook County, has said he runs the largest mental health treatment facility in the country, which is the Cook County Jail. But that's not the way it should be. And so what I would try to do, but here's the problem, is that we can't blame the courts or the judges or the police or anything like that for this situation when we don't fund mental health treatment. You show your priorities by how you spend money. And if you're not spending money on mental health treatment, and then you say to the courts, well, we really want you to put people into treatment facilities, whether it's for substance abuse or mental health issues, but there's no facilities for them to go to, well, you're just exacerbating the problem at that point. So one of the areas that unfortunately, we haven't done great as a state or as a nation, for that matter, is funding mental health facilities, because we got rid of them, a lot of them, after One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and we need to get out of that mindset and understand that it is far better to put someone with mental health issues in a treatment center than it is in the jail, because you're not helping them get better in the jail. And the idea behind the whole criminal justice system is to get people to stop doing whatever it was that got them into the criminal justice system. So if we're not helping them do that, you know, we're just running in place. We're keeping things exactly the same. We all know the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expect a different result.
And then a final question here is that what is the single most important issue in your opinion that's happening in our county with the judges? You know, what do you see as the most important issue? Because one of the things I always tell people, it's important to know who the judges are.
Yes.
Because they will make or break you, period. And it's important to know where they stand on certain, on certain topics or either certain issues. You know, not that they're gonna, go in favor for you or whatever, but you need to know who you're dealing with. You know, like I have a lot of attorney friends, and they'll say, you know what, well, this judge here, you don't want this person because they don't do A, B, or C, or this judge here, okay, she's a little bit softer on this, or that. So, what type of judge do you see yourself as being?
It's very difficult because the what are called the judicial canons, the rules, they are very strict in a couple of different areas, especially for either sitting judges or judicial candidates like me. And basically what they say is, you can't say how you're going to rule on things because you haven't seen them yet. And that's absolutely correct. If you were to ask me, how would you have ruled on a particular case, if I'm not the judge who's sitting in the courtroom and all the evidence is taken, I can't answer that question. And that's an honest answer. People find it very frustrating because to a certain, as human beings, we all have our ability to come to a quick judgment on a situation. That's not always ideal. One of the reasons why we have laws in courtrooms is because, as a species, we haven't done real good with that in the past, with mob justice or the quick rush to judgment. So it is better for, in a way, it's very frustrating for people because when you ask me that, there's many answers that I can't really give because I can't say I'm going to rule on every case as it comes before me.
But what's from your heart? What's from your heart?
Well, I would be fair.
Okay, that's tough, what I wanted to hear.
Tough but fair, and oftentimes I found this especially as a state legislator. People talk about, well, oh boy, you might, if you support something like that, you might look soft on crime. And so we have unfortunately fallen into this narrative, and I don't remember this growing up, so this to me is something new where you're hard on crime or you're soft on crime. And to me, the answer is to be smart, it doesn't matter hard or soft, those words don't have anything to do with data-driven or logical or anything like that. So we have to get away from looking at someone as weak or strong based on what they're willing to do to other people who are in front of them as defendants. What I like is when we use data. As a legislator, and I said this, coming from a prosecutorial background, if you want me to do something, show me the evidence that it works. And that's the approach that I've tried to take. Oftentimes, we have disagreements because maybe we don't really like the evidence that shows us that something works that maybe we disagree with. But I've always kind of taken the tack that I want to do what works to make things better. Whether certain people, whether everybody likes it or not, that shouldn't be the reason, as long as it works. Now that having been said, sometimes people come up with ideas on the spur of the moment, and they don't work out so well. And
all of us.
All of us, exactly. Everybody's done it. And so you have to be prepared to fail big, especially when you're trying out solutions to problems that people haven't come up with a solution to before. You have to be willing to do that. So I would be fair, and basically what I have always done, when I was a prosecutor, I would get made fun of by some of the other prosecutors because I spent a lot of time on the phone with victims' families, and that's not an efficient way of being a prosecutor. You can call someone up and say, hey, your son's murderer is up next week, be there at 9:30, and say goodbye. To me, I thought if I had lost a loved one from my family, I would want someone who was willing to answer some questions, spend some time on the phone with me, because this is the most horrific tragedy that I've ever gone through, you know. And so I took that approach as a prosecutor, and I would like to think I would take that same approach as a judge, to try to put myself in their shoes. Obviously, we can't know all the experiences that anyone else has gone through, but, you know, my grandmother had a great saying about, you know, we'd have paradise on earth if everybody just lived by the golden rule, if we all treated each other like we would want to be treated. So as a judge, that would be, you know, that would be my goal, would be to treat people like I would want to be treated if I was in front of me. So, you know.
So what do you think is the biggest issue that's facing judges today?
So, you know, that's a really complicated question. To a certain degree, what judges are being asked to do is to solve a lot of problems that we have in society that judges didn't necessarily create, or at least this generation of judges didn't necessarily create. So that's a very, very difficult question. You know, in our system, it has a great premise, you know, that the judicial branch is different than the legislative branch, is different than the executive branch. So that there isn't one person, one tyrant, you know, one person who's judge, jury, and executioner. That is a great system, but it has a built-in inefficiency. So the problems that judges are facing now is that, you know, one, we're going through a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. So judges have had to deal with that situation for the last 2 years. That's a very immediate concern. But we are also, you know, there was a war on drugs for a long time that, you know, took turns that were not equitable in terms of how it was applied. So we're dealing with the ramifications from that. And I'm proud that we're taking steps to try to help fix some of those inequities. And so I think that judges they're on the front lines of that as well, trying to understand that, you know, the war on drugs impacted different communities in different ways, and we have to be mindful of that. We don't live in a vacuum. There were, you know, actions have consequences, initiatives have consequences, you know, and past legislation has had consequences. And for us to, for judges, it's very important that they be mindful of those things when they make their decisions. So we're dealing with, you know, it's not an easy, that's not an easy answer. There's a lot of issues that judges are dealing with right now, and so there's a lot on their plate. That's a couple of the big
ones. That's okay,
yep.
And that's okay, but that's important. That's
right.
important. Okay, so we have one more last segment, and I will be asking Sherry Williams. She's going to come, and we're going to talk about some legislation.
Right.
Yes,
absolutely,
definitely. Sherry, hello.
Hello, Sherry.
So I approached you with legislation about the voting for the detainees at the jail.
Correct.
So to me, John, I always thought that it would be harder to get legislation passed than that. That was kind of easy. So, I think we're just right.
Well, it was combined with a bigger,
yeah,
bigger
so
bill.
it's right place, right time. But I kind of like for you to kind of explain that process.
Right. So we have this.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
First explain what it was.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
What it was.
This was legislation to get the Will County Jail as a holding place. So we approached John to see, we were told that the statute as it was written didn't allow for that, and that the legislation, that the statute would have to be changed, and so that would have to be done through legislation.
Right. So, I mean, Cook County already had a polling place in it. So this was not, you know, groundbreaking, but it is interesting because people assume that, as a former prosecutor, that you don't really believe that people are innocent until proven guilty. So I do believe that, and in fact, I have dismissed charges as a prosecutor when the evidence did not support them. I think most prosecutors that have handled a large caseload have looked at cases, realized that the evidence did not support the charges, or in certain cases even found out that, you know, you had this didn't happen luckily to me, but in certain cases found out that, you know, someone was getting held on a charge that they were not guilty of. And so, you know, luckily there's mechanisms where you can get people released quickly when you find that out. But to me, that was the whole problem with people who are in the jail, not convicted. Once you are convicted, that's a different situation. But when you are in the jail facing charges, you are still presumed innocent until you have had your trial. So the idea of taking rights away from people who have not been convicted, who still enjoy that, that right to basically be presumed innocent and, until they are proven guilty, to have that voting right, which is one of our most fundamental and sacred rights, taken away simply because you're in a facility awaiting trial is not fair. That's not, you know, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, they would not have been up for that. Their whole thing was, especially because back then, it was, you know, if the king decided he didn't like you, then whatever happened, happened, and you had no control over it. So now, you know, we don't have kings, but still, we have a state that, you know, when it decides to put resources towards locking you up, it can be a formidable opponent. So I believe very strongly that in the bill, you know, the Bill of Rights, and that you are presumed innocent until you are proven guilty. So, we changed that part of the law that was causing a problem, and there was a problem in the law. It basically it didn't indicate that the polling place could not be publicly accessible. So you can't have something inside a jail be available to the public. So that had to be fixed. So we fixed that, and that was an example where there was a problem. You know, we found the fix, and then, you know, that ended up getting passed as part of a larger bill. So,
and that's huge. And I mean, you sort of been a little shy with it, but it was huge. I mean, we were ecstatic to speak up and vote when we brought this to you, and this was legislation that was passed, and because of that, our organization will be going into the jails in the coming months, registering people to vote, and then there will be a voting booth in the jail for for the actual election.
Correct.
So we, for one, we're proud because we know that our state senator made it happen through the work. You did the work, and you didn't have to. You did it. We called you.
Yep.
You made it happen. You had to partner with other people. You had to get them on board, but you made it happen. Yes.
You were accessible, and see, I think a lot of times people don't realize, you know, that's basically what you're there for, you know, to listen to the people that you represent.
Right.
And so you heard us, and you did something about it.
Well, and I was lucky because you presented me with a problem that I can solve. As a state senator, 99% of the situations that I'm asked to solve, I don't have the tools available to solve those problems because they're society-wide problems, and, you know, or you know, they require a much larger effort over more years. So this was a language problem and statute, and we were able to fix that. And the work that you do on the other end to get it implemented, to help make people aware of it. And it's important to point out, you know, inmates could vote from the jail before through mail. But there is something about a polling place that is different. And for any of us who voted, you know, I have always preferred voting at a polling place to voting by mail, even though I'm glad that the option is there for those people who aren't able to utilize it. But personally, I really enjoy going somewhere and voting so that I see it, I see what happens with my ballot. And so I thought, you know, there's no reason that someone who has not been to trial yet is still presumed innocent should not be able to do that just as well, even if they are, you know, in the Will County Jail.
And it's not just our county.
Right.
No, no, it's not. You're right. Yes, it is.
The rest of the states, the county's already doing it, so the rest of us now have that opportunity. And I think, having worked at the jail and worked with the detainees, I think that this will be a big thing for them because, as I've told Pam before, one of the things for me is that it makes them feel more still part of the community. Because as you said, they have not been found guilty. And some of them aren't going to be found guilty.
Absolutely.
So, you know, so now I can still, you know, I don't like that this person doesn't view the school system as being important, so I don't have to vote for them. I can vote for somebody else, but I can vote. So it's a big thing for people that don't have the freedom that, you know, that the rest of us do have because they're incarcerated.
Exactly.
State your name again and what position you're running for and your website so that people can go on the website and find out more about you.
Right, so so my name is John Connor. I'm currently the state senator for the 43rd district, but I'm running for Will County Circuit Court Judge, and my website is coniferjudge.com. And that'll tell you a little bit more about me and my wife Julie and my 3 kids, Colin, Charlie, and Jack, and our dog Circe. Because if I don't mention them, I'm going to get in trouble. So, and I love them all dearly, and they want to see me on the bench as well. But it's I want to help make Will County and Joliet a better place to live.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, State Senator John
Thank
Connor.
you, Pam. Thank you very much,
Julie,
Sherry.
for allowing me to co-host this forum discussion today. And you all get out there, get informed, as Julie said, get informed, know who you're voting for, know who the people are, and if nothing else, make sure you are registered to vote.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Sherry Williams.
Exercise your right and go vote.